What a team, hey? You two. Talk about good teams. Yes, I'd like to say thanks for all your hospitality, looking after. And Steve said, Megan will be there to meet you on the first day and run you through everything and treat you like a rock star. And I'm like, it's exactly how I feel. So it's been really, really great. Also, I'd like to acknowledge all the other speakers. They've been so amazing. Starting off with Shah, that was so great. What a great foundation. Stroke of genius there, Steve, to really set the frame everything, and a really great place to come from. So it was great. And Greg and Jeff and Alison just now, I learnt so much. I took so many notes. That was fantastic. And we didn't talk about matching our outfits before we came as well. But I did decide to wear yellow because I'm the last gig of the day, as we can all see, and that's a really tough gig, usually after a 2-day conference. So I'm between you and your weekend, so I understand that. So I'd like to hopefully keep it as light as possible. So there's been some really great content, really great deep dives. You guys have been honest and so courageous to get up here on day one in the morning and do your whys and share with everyone. So I'm going to actually, my intention is to keep it, as light as possible so that you don't fall asleep. And on that, I just wanted to get a read on where you all are. So in terms of your energy level, if you could give between 1 and 8. So 1's like, I wish I had beanbags here so that I could just lie down and go to sleep. And number 8 is like, yep, I'm ready to go. I've got a lot of energy. So if you could just write down somewhere or put it on your device or something where you're at. So just your energy levels, where you're at between 1 and 8. And then 4's like, oh, okay, I could go either way. 4 or 5 could go either way. And then the second one is, number 2 is, how prepared are you to engage and take some risks and just think a little bit differently? So 1 is like, no, not doing it. I just want to get through this because I want to get to the pub. And number 8 is, yep, I want to really have a go. I want to have a little bit of a think, maybe take a few risks and really engage. So where are you at between 1 and 8? So back to the first question. If you want to, let me know, was anyone between 1 and 5 for energy? Yep. A bit low on the energy scale. Yeah, absolutely. I totally welcome honesty. Absolutely. Okay, great. So I'll be getting you guys up. No. No, just joking. So I guess everyone else is between 6 and 8, so that's great. All right. You're off the scale. Excellent. Can you hand them round? And then the second one, who was between 1 and 5 in terms of not really sure about engaging. Yeah, so you're matched. Yep. So you're aligned or attuned. Okay. So everyone else is the other way. So that's great. Excellent. So everyone's ready to engage and just be here for the next hour or so. That's great. So starting off, everyone's been talking about their why, which is really great. And I can share that with you all if you'd like to know. But in the spirit of asking questions and understanding another person's perspective or other people's perspective and deepening our perspective-taking abilities, I'd like to ask you, rather than assuming, I'd like to ask you, what do you think you need to know about me that's going to help you to connect with me for the next hour or so, that's going to help you trust me, be open, and want to engage? What do you think that you need to know about me? And I'm going to write them down here. What do you need to know that's going to help you to get a better understanding of me and who I am, to be able to trust me and engage? Does anyone want to start? Yeah? You give us a clear. Okay. Oops. Yep. Anyone else? Background? Okay, so what in particular around background? Mm-hmm. Okey-doke. Okay, rightio. Oops. That's spelt right, yep. What's my why? Mm-hmm. So what does qualifications mean? Like training? Mm-hmm. Special? Okay. How many shoes? Well, yep, shoes. Interactive. Yep. Do dogs trust me? That's so funny. Not German shepherds for some reason. We have a bad relationship. Okay, dogs. Is it just dogs or okay, all right. Trust. Okay. Anything else? No. Okay. So that's fantastic. I will definitely cover all that, and I've done the dogs thing. I love it. Love it. I love all this stuff. Um, right. So I've got to cover all that in 60 minutes. All right. Um, okay. So it's great. So knowing all that, knowing all this information, why is it important, do you think, to know all that stuff? Trust? Yeah. Love it. Yes. Is it two ends? Yeah. Connect. Real. Excellent. Great. So knowing all of those things, and if you felt that you could trust me and connect with me and know that what we're sharing here is real, what do you think that would allow? Yeah, connection. Yeah, yeah. Love it. I love that. That's so great. Um, yeah, this is what I'm getting at in terms of what's important. That's so good. Thank you. And what was your name again? Matt, that's right. Um, okay. It's funny because and Margot was in another talk that I did for JCI, so she's referencing another talk. Yeah, so exactly. So getting these things across, or understanding these, or having more of an idea of these sort of things, it helps, with leaders, with people following, working with, trusting, being creative, innovative, and feeling safe and comfortable. So that's my main thing that I would like for you to all feel safe right now to share, to open up to ideas, and to share with each other. And what I've noticed has been really great. You have a really great connection with each other, and going out to dinner last night as well. It was really great to see how well you all share with each other. And it's like Julie said, that the power is in the group. It happens, and it's like an energy that goes beyond when the speaker or the facilitator or the leader walks out of the room. And I can speak a lot about teams in organisations, but focusing on where you guys are at in small business, I think we'll stay there. Okay, where should I start? Probably, I guess, my why. So I grew up in the Yarra Valley, down in Melbourne, near Melbourne, and I was an outdoors kid, loved being outdoors, loved working, loved being with my friends, adventurous, carefree, all those sort of things. And I was my mum was at home when I was in primary school. She went back to work when I was 12. My brother was 10, and my youngest brother was 8. And everything changed then for us. I took on a lot more responsibilities in the house and for my brothers and all those sort of responsibilities at home. And it's interesting how we let stories shape us from a very young age. So from that very young age, I decided that I didn't want to be a mother that wasn't there for my children. So I wanted to work as hard as I could and put everything into my career, travel, saving money, setting everything up to have children that I could be there and I could be present, I could be the mother that I didn't have. So I did that. I worked my tail off. I studied as an accountant. It was funny because my parents were like, you can do anything you want, Danielle, as long as it's in business. And, okay, great, I'll do sport management. Well, you should probably do accounting, and then you can always go back to sport management. So I could do anything I wanted as long as it was in business, and it might as well be in accounting. And that was because it took me years to work this out, but it's because it was safe. It was safe. We all need accountants. We all, although things are changing, I guess, in the future. But that was job done for them. Tick. Okay, I've got a daughter off her hands, and she's safe. She's in a good space. But it never ever fit for me. It was never really my purpose. And I worked in engineering services companies, like big boys' toys, sites. I worked on a site in Italy in finance, but with metal crushers and slag pot carriers and all these sort of things, massive big machineries and things like that. And I just saw the behaviour that is coming out in the Banking Commission, Royal Commission now, as the norm. So for me, that was my experience of the workplace. So when I came to be a mother, my why was to raise flourishing human beings. So increasing shareholder wealth was nowhere near comparable, so I stayed home. And I built this model around a perfect family. Corporate wife, although my ex-husband and I worked together, so I knew the ins and outs from a financial point of view. So this perfect family, perfect model, everything's really good, except it wasn't. And so I built my whole life around this story of family, being there for my children, flourishing humans. And things started to get a little bit different in our family. Things started to shift. We spent a year in Beijing, living abroad over there, and that was an interesting challenge. And then after that, and the fallout of that, I found myself facing down the barrel of being a single parent with 3 children, going back into the workforce or going back to work when my sons were pretty much 12, 10 and 8. I mean, is that a cosmic joke or what? I mean, that is crazy. And so I thought I cannot go back into finance because the level that I was working at was 110%. And I couldn't do that and be the parent that I wanted to be. So I decided to start my own business. I started off, I was a personal trainer and then a wellness coach. And there were times there where, because I knew if I went back into corporate, I would sort of die inside a little bit because it wasn't fitting my purpose. So I decided to start my own business and I invested really heavily financially. And I kept working and working. And you've probably all had it. It's like sometimes you just want to we were talking last night. It's like, maybe I should just get a job. Maybe I should just go and work for someone else. And you keep pushing it and pushing it. And I don't know if anyone's had those moments, I know Steve has, you were sharing before, where you're just like, oh, I don't know what else to do. Well, in my not knowing what else to do moments, one of the times I signed up for all of those, thanks Steve, yeah, thank you. All those mystery shopper things where you be a mystery shopper, or filling in the online surveys for the RTA or something, like the RMS, like talking about speed cameras and things like that, and where you get like $2 vouchers or something like that. It's like, I just need to earn some sort of income. I just need some income coming in here. And I remember being so down at one time. I had a friend, I was at a charity dinner, and one of my wellness coaching packages was one of the prizes for the raffle. And it had been left off the list. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even give away my coaching for free. I'm like, where is it on the auction? And I'm sitting on a table of doctors, like women doctors. It was for the Illawarra Women's Health Centre. Sitting on a table with doctors, and they're bidding for all the things at the auction. I'm thinking, it was winter, and I'm thinking, which one of my kids really needs a school jumper? Because I can only afford one. There's only one's going to get a jumper. Which ones are going to be? And they're all bidding for artwork and trips away and this sort of thing. And our table was the highest fundraiser of the whole entire dinner, and we won a prize or something, and I'd not spent a cent. But I was surrounded by all these people who seemed really successful. And they were able to buy art and things like that. Everyone else around me seemed a lot more successful than me. But I was measuring everything on finances. So I was defining my success around income. And I hit a really, really low patch. And I had to just go through it. I just had to work through that period of time. And I worked through it. And then I decided, well, hang on, I'm defining my success here around finances and income. But what if I take a different measure of success, like the people that I've met, the networks that I've been involved with, all of these other things, like the relationships that I've built, the people that I've met. And what I decided to do was just change my perspective. I couldn't influence and change everything in my world. We've talked about that a bit. So I couldn't change that, but I could change the way I saw my world. And that's what I did. So I changed perspective, and I started doing a research project interviewing women leaders, so women who lead at work and who are lead parents, and understanding their unique perspective. I wanted to understand more about my ideal client. And in the course of those interviews, where women were just sharing their stories, where I was giving them a safe, confidential place to speak, to be heard, to be listened to ask questions, to be present with them, and to be open. It was incredible what came out from them, the honesty, the real stories, how they really felt about life as juggling all the responsibilities that they juggled. And what I realised in those moments is that often as leaders, we're not given the space to be vulnerable, to be honest, to be open without an agenda. There's often something else at play. So an outcome required, or a goal to be met. So I realised how important perspective taking and understanding, looking into what someone else is looking into, how effective it was for communication, conflict management, customer experience and understanding, and connection. And that is what I'd like to share with you all today. I'd like to share a little bit more about how perspective taking, we've been talking a lot now about everyone's whys, so why about you? So now I'd like to help you look at, see if you can see the why and the strengths and the potential in other people that you lead, your customers, people that you're in relationship with, to be able to give them a little bit of that, to be able to use that to create more for yourself. So how does that sound? Yeah, excellent. Okay, great. So let me see. So I've given you my background. There was some vulnerability in there. Yeah. My why. Qualifications. I said I was an accountant. I was also a CPA for 10 years. And plus I've done other coaching things. What I specialise in, was that clear? Yep. Absolutely. That was the story that was my world. That's what I knew. And that's okay, because that's what we know. That's what I knew. So yes, because I went from working in corporate America 1 week as an internal consultant at a really great hourly rate to a mother the next week. Because in America, you work right up to your pop. Some women are sending emails when they're in labour. It's crazy. But I worked right up to then. But my first son was actually 8 days early. I was planning to have 2 weeks to read the parenting books before he came, but he came a little bit early, so I didn't get that in. But yeah, so I actually brought all of those strengths and skills from my finance background and training into being a parent. So organisation, prioritisation, discipline, numbers I used to measure. I used to time how long Alex would feed on each breast and write it down and do a comparison and analyse it. And it's like, I wish I could weigh my boob before and after so I really knew how much he was taking in. So I took that to another level. Yeah. So for sure. So that was training. So do you know, is it clear what I specialise in? Okay, women leaders who are lead parents. So that was my research and coaching them. Maybe I need to get a bit clearer. Is it clear what I care about? Yeah. Yes, yeah. Okay, clear. Okay, if I was going to be an animal, it would be an owl, because they're supposed to be wise. Interactive, yeah, I'll go into that in a bit more. And the how, I guess I haven't really covered that. Okay, so the how-to. So perspective taking, I see it as a game changer for leadership. Because when you can understand where someone else is coming from, really get into their shoes, you don't actually need to practice empathy 101, step 1, 2 and 3 of empathy. It just flows. So we're going to talk about how you do that through listening to understand, by being open, being curious and asking questions. So we're going to have some exercises to do that together, and I'm hoping it's going to be fun, but I guess you can tell me that at the end if you think it was. But so is that clear? Does that feel clear? Yeah? Great. Okay, we'll work on the how as we go. All right. So something, it's good to cover all those things, and I by no means think that just with all of that, as much as there was a bit there that I did share, it doesn't necessarily straight away create trust and connection. That takes time to build. And it takes time to build while you're being who you are. We've had a lot of that over the last 2 days, just being you. So just being you and being who you are builds that trust and that connection. But this is a really great first step, obviously. So does anyone have any questions that I might not have answered? No? All good? Okay. Okay, so looking out through someone else's lenses, I love this quote, and Margot's heard it before, but you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside his skin and walk around in it. Does anyone know where that comes from? To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch. And for me, I read that book when I was in high school, and it made a lot of sense to me, and I've always tried to do that, just trying to see things through another person's point of view. It takes you out of the situation without even thinking about it. So really seeing what they're facing into, seeing what their fears are, seeing what they're looking at, what their experience is, their daily experience. So there's a couple of things around perspective. So there's perception. Does everyone know what perception is? The way we perceive our environment. So the way we take in the information from our environment. And we take it in through our, does anyone know, senses? Our senses. So does anyone know how many senses we have? 6, I know people say that, 6. Actually, it's between 14 and 20, some people say. So we're taking in information in all different ways. So that's like our perception. And then the way we perceive something, or our perspective, is our point of view. So using all that information, our point of view or our mindset or the position that we sit in, which comes from experiences, our family experiences, from our history, from our belief system. So we could all be looking at the same things or bringing things in through our senses, the same things, but our perspective is different based on a whole lot of other things. And this is important to remember for customers, people we work with, people we're in relationship with. So I'd like to tell you a quick story. So just to illustrate this, so being from Melbourne, I'm an AFL fan, and I wanted to share some of the AFL culture with my sons. So I took 2 of them with my dad to an AFL game. And it was the Swans. My middle child is a Swan supporter, which is really tough to take. It was against the Western Bulldogs. So that's a really nuggety, tough team in the western suburbs of Melbourne. And we sat behind the goal post because I wanted to give my sons a really great immersive experience of what it's like to be in an AFL game. And we were sitting with the Western Bulldogs cheer squad, and my courageous little Swan supporter was barracking heavily for the Swans, deep in doggy territory. I really admired him for that. So we're sitting right there in amongst all of all the supporters, and these guys were desperate. They hadn't won a flag since the 50s. They have now in 2016, but they were desperate for a flag. And we're sitting behind the goalpost, like 3 seats back from the goals, and the umpire called something against a Western Bulldogs player, and the uproar was incredible. So everyone was like, "No way! Umpired all sorts of expletives through people with no teeth and crazy hair and all that sort of thing." And we saw exactly what they saw, but it was clearly the Swans' way. Clearly, it was clearly dropping the ball. It was clearly. And it made me think that we saw exactly the same thing through our senses, but they saw it a totally different way based on how they wanted to see it, what outcomes they wanted, and why it was important to them. So they saw exactly the same thing in a very different way. So from that really taught me a lot about perspective as well. So the way our perspective can be determined by what we want the outcomes to be. So understanding where someone else is coming from is incredibly important. So, yeah. So, the next thing is, so how does this relate to you guys in your world? Can you think of a situation either personally or professionally where you had a completely different perspective to someone else and it caused conflict? Completely different perspective. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And do you ever all put each other in each other's, looking into each other's shoes, like sitting in each other's shoes and looking at, yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. Yeah, okay. Okay, okay. So you understand, but even in that, you understand where each other's coming from, and look at you now, like the positive energy between you, because well, now, but you but I guess eventually you can take yourself out of it because you can see each other through each other's perspective. Yeah, and you treat it like a game. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And does anyone else have that? You don't have to share it with me necessarily publicly, but with a partner, family member, particular customers, where you just really struggle to be able to see through their perspective, through their lens. Okay. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Totally get it. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. 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 Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Perspective. Mhm. Mhm. Mm. 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 Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just. Mm. Mm. Yeah. It sounds a little bit like Steve with his son and job's not done. And if you were to just for a minute, Rachel, isn't it? Rochelle, if you were just to step out of your skin for a minute and see it through his eyes, what do you think he's thinking, feeling, facing into? Yeah. Mm. Ah, okay. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mm. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm. Mm. But what I love about that is you said, I know that you think it's done, but can you just do things? So you're recognizing where he's coming from, what he's thinking. So that's a fantastic step to perspective taking, like taking and potentially diffusing anything that could go, you know, explode even more. Or do you? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so we need to work on the conflict management. Maybe we can talk later about a bit more conflict management. But okay, great. And okay, so that's a short example of that one. And I guess we've covered now why perspective is important. So if we think of it in a business sense, why do you think that perspective is important to understand? The perspective of your customer, of your suppliers, of your team, all those sort of things. Why do you think understanding what those people are facing is so important? Oh, 15? Really? Oh my God. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry, Rochelle? Mm. Mm. Yes. Yes. Mm. Mm. Yes. 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 Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm. Yes. Excellent. And that comes back to one of Alison's questions around if your grandchild or if someone asked you what you do and sort of you get into their perspective and look at what you're doing, what do you think they would think you're doing? Like explaining it to them, looking out through their eyes. So yeah, that's a fantastic point. Yes. Yes. Mm. Yes, absolutely. 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 Yeah. So, yeah. Mm. Mhm. Yes. 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 Mm. Yes. Yes. So true. So true. Absolutely. Understanding where they're at, where they're coming from. And sorry, I get to say that's what we were talking about in terms of where meeting the customer where they're at. And that's a certain point that is fantastic. And I think that's a starting point for then going deeper to look out through their eyes, like really getting to their skin. Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 Mm. Mm. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So you're ascribing a higher value to harmony than not doing the job or whatever the other thing is. So, yeah, well, it's either you're moving towards something or avoiding something. Yeah, so you're avoiding the punishment, moving towards harmony, which is... Mm, that's right, exactly. I love that. Importance, you won't prioritise it. And like Rochelle was saying, understanding, you know, when you're so in it, it's hard to really step back and really see things. So understanding exactly what people are seeing so you can explain it in their terms, what you do. Yeah. Great. Well, time has just really flown. But so we've talked about why it's important and what it is. What do you think gets in the way of perspective? Like understanding where someone's at and what they're facing into? Ego. Good one. Yes. Ego. Whoops. Yeah. Anything else? Own experiences. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. As in, is that a distraction? Okay, like competitive, like comparison. Mm. Mm. Okay. Excellent. And I guess it all ties in, but and things we've talked about judgment, so our own judgment as well, and judgment of others, assumptions that we make about others, and I guess that comes back to Rochelle making the point about sometimes we assume what the customer knows and hears. Mm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Great. They are all points, and will now help you to put some practices in place around. Oh, that's on the thing. Oh, and another one was, I don't think it came, but distraction. So has everyone heard that term VUCA? I guess everyone has. Yeah. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So that's the world that we're living in now. Total, like, distraction overload all the time. We're always, not we're always, but there's the option to be, disengaged. Other things coming in all the time, and it can get in the way of really understanding where someone's coming from, and not listening. So what helps with that? I had some other things, but time's running away. But the things that help with deepening your perspective taking capabilities are listening to understand. So when you're in a conversation with somebody, is listening to understand rather than listening to react or solve or respond, but listening to someone to understand, really listening to what they're saying. And I've got an example of that. Some people might say it's really, really difficult to do that because I've got this going on and that going on. But really listening to what the person's saying. I have a friend, he's an ex-cop, and he's won all these bravery awards, and he's an international speaker now. And he has a lot of masculine energy, strong, quite broad, has a really strong presence. And he's done a lot of interviews of a lot of bad people in his time. And he has this ability to, he says, see people in 4D. So rather than just seeing the 3D of what they are, like their physical makeup and things that are obvious, that really listening to understand, to seeing beyond that, another dimension. And he said there's some people that have done some really bad things that he's interviewed that have some really good qualities. And he was able to see those by looking at it from looking 4D. So looking beyond what the person's saying, beyond the words and beyond their actions, to seeing the human being. And, it's not necessarily incredibly easy to do that. But we've got three steps that will help with that. So being open, being present, and asking rather than assuming. So 3 really important steps. And that might sound a lot to do or a little bit challenging. But like my friend Alan said, he has a lot of outward energy based on his personality and who he is and his presence. A lot of outward energy. But he realised that he need to be able to listen to understand. He needed to turn off that outflow energy, and switch to inflow. And he calls it receptive sponges. So he uses his receptive sponges. So I've just got a sponge here. So instead of having that outward flow on all the time and that outward energy, he said when you use that too often, it shuts people down and they don't open up. So turning off the outflow energy and putting on the receptive sponges, and you bring in information and you see in 4D rather than 3D. So I've got the sponges. So and then anchor. So sorry, quick paint. I stole it from my 8-year-old's bedroom today. So being present. So step 1, being present with someone, being right in the space with them. So being really present and anchored. And the next one is being open. So this umbrella is really colourful, and there's been a lot of effort and different things gone into making this umbrella colourful. But if it's not open, it's not going to serve its purpose. So if we're not open when we're having discussions with people, then it's not really serving our true purpose of being open. So, all right, is anyone superstitious? So we need to be open. So open, present, and I don't have anything for ask. Here we go. So big question mark. So I spoke with one leader. He works for a big car manufacturer, and she admits that it was a real development gap. In terms of answering questions, solving problems, and not being present in meetings. So she came up with this some physical and mental cues. So she talks with her hands a lot and quite expressive. And so she decided in meetings she was going to sit on her hands so that she wouldn't use her hands, and she promised that the first thing that came out of her mouth was going to be a question. So rather than launching in with a solving or an interrogation, the first thing is a question. So sitting on her hands and asking a question. So that's just one thing that you could use. And then the other thing is when you're listening to understand, when you're in that 4D space, when you've got your receptor sponges on, when you're present, you're able then, it gives you the opportunity to see what's strong in someone rather than what's wrong. So you can see their strengths, so their positive character attributes. And instead of focusing on what needs to be fixed, because really the needs to be fixed part is probably really small compared to what's really good about the people, about ourselves and others. So using what's strong and people's strengths to bridge those developmental gaps is a much better approach than focusing all of the energy. Because if you've got a lot of great character strengths, so organised, driven, I don't know, disciplined, passionate, all those things, and you struggle a little bit with admin or something like that, or I don't know what's something that people struggle with, delegation, you can use all of your, actually can I use our example from last night and the chocolate? Okay. So we're talking last night about eating a block of chocolate at night after dinner and that sort of, and sorry, what was your name again? Jonathan, that's right. So Jonathan was saying, I just don't know why I do it. I eat a whole block and I just feel really bad afterwards. Okay, I work it off. I do 2 hours of training a day, something like that. There's a little bit of a self-beat up, feel bad in the morning. And I said, but hang on, you're a triathlete. You train 2 hours a day. That takes determination, discipline, commitment, hard work. If you use that to face that challenge around the chocolate, you can absolutely come up with a solution. And did you... yeah. Yeah. And I guess, unfortunately, we would have liked to have done a bit more about that. But that, so asking, so how do we find out what is strong in people? By being present, by having our receptor sponges on, our outflow turned off and inflow and sponges, being open, asking rather than assuming, and looking at what's strong rather than what's wrong, and using the strong to bridge that developmental gap. So I really would have liked to have done an exercise. We've got to go. Do we have 2 minutes? Okay, great, 2 minutes. All right, so now I'd just like everyone to just stand up, please. And if you could just go and find a partner, like completely in the other end of the room. This is just the last thing we're going to do. And just stand up, please. Alrighty, so nominate someone who's going to be a listener, and then someone who's going to be a sharer, okay? Listener or a sharer. All right, so sharers, I'd like you for the next couple of minutes to speak to the listener about something that you really love doing, or actually, what's a good day for you? What's a good day and why? So what's a really good day? And when you're in that good day, what's working really, really well? Okay, so for 2 minutes. And the listener is just going to listen the whole time and not say anything, okay? And then when I say time's up, you're going to ask questions, right? And as you're doing this, you're being present, you're being open, receptor sponges, you're going to be looking for what's strong in the other person. So the strengths, the things, when people talk about what they love and what's a good day, that's the best way to draw out strengths in others, okay? So just 2 minutes going, what's working well, what's a good day, and why you love it. Okay, time's up, guys. You're probably having fun. So if you'd like to share, listeners, if anyone would like to share, I mean, we're running out of time, so it's fine, but if you could identify one strength that you think the other person has, or something that's really good or going good. Doesn't have to be a definition of a strength, but something that's really good about the other person that you think they could use towards their challenges. Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Excellent. And do you think you could use that for any of your challenges that you've identified here today? Oh, well, over the last 2 days. You, you don't have. Hmm. So using your strengths was delegation one of them? Mm. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Great. Excellent. All right, great. Excellent. Okay, great. Does anyone else want to share a strength that they've identified or something around what they've done? Mm, mm. Wow, you're amazing. You're a really great um, listener. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so great. Excellent. Excellent. This is great. Everyone's seeing some really great things. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yes. That's great. Excellent. Yep. Inspire. So you've identified things and then you've used it to motivate yourself. Fantastic. Is anyone else? Hmm. Excellent. Fantastic. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It is. It's fantastic. Excellent. Did you? Oh, did you have one, or are you scratching your head? Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Wow. In 2 minutes. Wow. Great delivery. Yeah. 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 Wow. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So that says a lot about you. Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well done. Great. Yep. Oh no, Rochelle. Mm. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well done. Great. Rochelle, and you guys? Okay. Excellent. Oh, that's fantastic. That's really great. Do we have time to do the other side or not? Okay, need to clear out. Okay, great. Everyone sit down. That's great. Thanks for that. That's a nice way to finish. And what what would be great for you to? It's totally up to you. But if, the more that we can practice that in all of our conversations that we have, the more often we're going to come from that point of view of seeing what's strong rather than what's wrong, and we're going to deepen our perspective taking capacity to see where someone else is coming from, get into their shoes, get in under their skin, and to be able to understand. And in the process, it takes us out of it, and you realise it's not all about you, it's about the other person and their experience. So my challenge to you guys is, and I know everyone's been asking about takeaways, so Steve might ask, but my challenge to you is to do this with at least one person per day. So does everyone think they can do that? Or it's up to you, but that's my challenge, whether you take it on or not. But it will change your life exponentially if you do that. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions? I know we're out of time, but talk to me after, unless you've got to run off.